So Ty, you've had quite a journey through music, huh? So I'm really stoked to hear your story. But why don't we start from the beginning? Why don't you take us all the way back and just tell us how you
Wow.
got into music?
From the beginning always scares me because how long do you have?
Well, we got a while.
I got into music through my family, man. My grandmother had a radio show on WPRN in Butler, Alabama. And from the time I was 6 years old, I was singing live on the radio with her. My mother sings. And, just a lot of music in my background. I always like to say that probably uh, Thanksgivings and Christmas around our house, I shouldn't have even wanted to be a singer, man. There's some great singers in my family. And I guess I'm just only one crazy enough to say, I want to do this for a living.
So everyone's playing the piano, playing the guitar, singing around the holidays.
Yeah, I'm actually the only one that besides my aunt, that plays the piano. Most everybody on string instruments, fiddles and steel guitars and.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So definitely got a country twang going on at the family parties then, huh?
When I talk, I can't get rid of it, along with allergies today. So.
So your family's doing music, got radio shows, and people are playing instruments. At what point did you kind of say, "Hey, I think I actually want to do this," as a career?
I never thought about anything else really. My dad was really stern about me getting a degree, so I went to Belmont University here in Nashville, and about 6 months before I was to graduate, I did a show called Star Search. I flew out to Los Angeles, and
I remember Star Search.
I did well on that show, went all the way to the end.
Uh-huh.
So if there was ever any doubt that there was the showbiz buzz there, and I was only 17 at that point. So Belmont University is really great. They actually gave me an alumni sticker. So I got 6 months to go. I just never needed it so far, but during the pandemic, I thought about it.
Well, that's awesome. So you were on a Star Search. So did that kind of give you, were you kind of like, did you start getting some calls after Star Search? Was that kind of like a turning point from kind of casual to something a little more serious?
I learned a harsh lesson in the music business right off the bat. And number one, I was young, and most of the artists getting record deals at that time, were except for Leanne Rhymes, where in their late 20s. And
right.
I was on the show with Sawyer Brown, and they won the show. They actually ended up getting a record deal. But I remember after that, I would go out on the tour bus with Sawyer Brown, and I'd sing with them some. But I had no record labels knocking down my door at all. So I ended up, out of necessity, going to Texas because I had a lot of friends and family in Texas. And my friend said, "Man, these guys out here are making a great living, just playing 6 nights a week at these honky tonks." And I wanted to play and sing at that time. So I thought, never would I imagine that would be my launching pad. So I put a band together in Nashville, and we rented a rental truck, a rider truck.
Uh-huh.
And so we need a name. I said, well, let's be Rider West. We got a rider truck, so we're Rider West. So we went to Texas, and we wanted to do the band thing. And I got an agent and got booked right away, and ended up over the next 2 years moving to Dallas and putting a band together there. And the band thing wasn't happening. And I was probably 4 years into that time, and Trace Adkins and Mark Chestnut, and I mean all these guys that we were all playing the same honky tonks, and playing gigs. And it was a fun time to look back on it. We actually gave each other a hard time, but we had a great respect for each other. But I ended up winning Texas Entertainer of the Year, and that got some people in Nashville interested. Were making a lot of noise that time.
Yeah.
And Margie Hunt and Doug Johnson flew out to Dallas, Texas, and saw me play at the Country Connection. I had to think about that for a minute. And brought me to Nashville the next day. So can you fly to Nashville the next day? And another harsh lesson in the music business. Just like the judge, they put me in a room full of 8 people and said, "Sing for us." I was like, nobody told me this. I don't even play guitar,
Uh-huh.
Margie goes, "You had a guitar on stage." I said, "But it wasn't plugged in." I wanted to be George Strait, so I had a hat and a guitar on,
Yeah.
And she goes, "Okay." She goes, "Well, sing for us anyway."
Uh-huh.
So I just launched into that was church for me. I mean, I grew up doing a cappella stuff in church. So thank God my brain went there instead of, oh shit. So I sang a couple of songs, and they had me sing a third song. They said, "Thank you." I left and
Mm-hmm.
right back to the airport. And I thought that was it. So, well, that was another harsh lesson.
Uh-huh.
I got a call. It was 3 days later, and they said, we'd like to offer you a recording contract. So
Wow.
it was that quick, man. And it took me 6 months to do that album. But before I even finished the album, we'd finished a single, my first #1 called What Mattered Most.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All happened really, really fast. And it's been a roller coaster.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And it's ironic, you had to leave Nashville to get noticed in Nashville.
Yeah. It's not an untrue story with a lot of people.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
interesting. I mean, I was fortunate to have some pretty cool friends in the business, but Carrie Underwood, and she said, man, I came and did 2 projects in Nashville, and it took a TV show. I said, the TV show for me, almost nobody wanted me because of the TV show.
Right.
So it was so interesting how life happens.
Sure. I think there's a biblical story, not to call you or any other musician a prophet or anything, but there's a quote, something like sometimes a prophet has to leave his hometown in order to be recognized or something like that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It also, sometimes leaving your hometown gives you a whole lot of clarity about who you are and what you want to be. Because
right.
I did one thing, and that was came out of the churches and gospel music into what I thought country music was. But I worked 5 years at a theme park here in Nashville too, Opryland, USA. It's no longer here. Dollywood has turned into the Opryland. A lot of, Kristin Chenoweth too, which we're going to talk about in a minute, and Shelley Wright and Little Texas. So many of those guys worked on those stages as well. So a lot of our producers and musicians and A-class players that play on my records and many people's records worked at the park. So another, I call it college, another music college.
Yeah. Yeah. So you get this record contract after just, only 6 months you were just playing bars around Texas, huh? And
no, I played close to 4 years.
4 years. Okay. So 6 months after getting after getting that award, was it? Or
it was 6 weeks after getting that award that all this went down.
Okay.
And then in the next 6 months I had finished an album. Yeah, so it was quick. Normally it's they would take an artist, it would be a year before your record would come out, and they would go in, they'd cut, what Faith Hill said. Faith Hill said she cut like 150 songs, something like that, for her first record, if I remember correctly. That only 10 songs go on that record. So back it was crazy amounts of money to be spent back then. It was just I think I had to recoup $250,000 for a photo shoot for an album back in the Sony days. I'm like,
Sheesh.
knowing what I know, I would have never approved that.
No.
It's a picture.
Yeah, seriously.
We paid for the experience in Napa Valley is what we paid for.
Yeah. I also find it ironic that you were saying that back in the 90s that they weren't signing, younger musicians. You were too young. I almost feel like that the concern is the opposite nowadays for musicians, right. That they're not young enough. It's like record labels can't seem to sign someone early enough now, it seems like.
I'm happy for everybody, but what I always say about that, it obviously worked for Taylor Swift. I mean, she's an entity. That's just an entity that is Taylor Swift. But
right,
she was writing grown-up songs at that time. There's an old soul in there. Mm-hmm. I always say to these kids, I have a production company. We work with, I don't say kids, I call them all kids, but work with really talented people to make sure that some of the things that happen to me don't happen to them. So
right,
being smarter and know your story going into it. And
right.
So but first thing I say to these kids, what is your story? Because that's what you're going to write about. Mm-hmm. So when I hear an 8-year-old on the radio, I'm like, you don't got no story.
yeah.
But
yeah,
that's what they do it.
Right. Yeah. So how was it? Because this is your first album, and you write this song, What Mattered Most. When you were writing that song, did you kind of have a feeling that it was going to be as big as it was? Were you like, oh, this one's special, or?
Because we're going to talk about her in a minute, I'm going to do a famous quote from Kristin Chenoweth. I wish I'd written it. I wish I'd written it. She didn't write that one. Doug Johnson, but it leads me to a great story, because Doug Johnson and all the record heads back then, I think Alan Jackson was probably one of the few people that wrote his own songs. I think. And Mary Chapin Carpenter came along, and Roseanne Cash.
Sure.
But funny, country music didn't start out that way, because it started out with, the greats writing their own songs. And so
Sure.
but then
No,
Songwriterville happened in Nashville. You could actually not be a singer, just a songwriter. And
right.
some of the greatest songs on this planet that came from those publishing houses. And so I was also grateful for that. But I knew I could write gospel music. I knew I was great at that, but my brain didn't switch over that I could actually. I was told, when I talk to kids today, I'm sorry, I'm allergies. I'm still choking here. Excuse me.
Yeah, take your time.
No commercial, but Diet Coke. When you become a songwriter, and you have to really believe that you're a songwriter. You got to know that you can do that. And I was told when I moved I wrote with a couple of people, and I was told that I wasn't a good songwriter. So I internalized that. And for years, I thought, okay, well, I'm just not any good at it. And some people would say we're just being lazy. I said, no, I believed I wasn't good at it. So I didn't want to embarrass myself by going into a room with a Gary Burr or Tracy Berg and suck. So, but I found out later that I don't suck. I'm a pretty damn good songwriter, but that just comes with time.
Yeah.
But I had no idea that song was going to launch my career. No. I mean, I thought it was weird at first. I was like, oh my God, what did I do? It's like, it's kind of it's a weird thing to sing. And, but now I know you look for those weird things.
Yeah. That's what makes them unique. Yeah.
And, Doug Johnson was brilliant at that, man. He's an amazing songwriter and my producer at the time. He took great care, even after, excuse me, I went through some tough times with addiction, and the label kept me on. And then I saw what love and care really became. They really cared about me. They cared about my success, about my life success, and about my song choices and what I was putting out. So it's been a constant lesson for me. I thought I was kind of done with lessons. The pandemic happened. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Not okay.
Yeah.
Take the road away from a musician, man. Somebody said music industry. I said, what industry? I said, there's not one right now. And but my therapist summed it up, and I hate her for this. She said, I have to say therapist and friend after all these years. But she said, well, look at all that wide open space in front of you now. What are you going to do with it? It's an open canvas. I was like, really? I thought I'd already got the art shop open over here, And I said, gosh, man, it's a time to be creative. It's a time to think bigger, to think outside the box. And my dad said, if you want to be great, then make it great. And so it's been a time that I didn't react that way immediately. I didn't, because for me, the last 5 years since I came out, has been to rebuild. That was my think great. It's been to rebuild. It's been to make a new way, not for just myself, but for others. And
right.
And all that work was at its pinnacle when this happened. So I always like to say, yes, my tree fell over everybody's tree, but my tree fell harder. But I had a hard time with that, man. Because I'm a spiritually strong guy, but for the first time in a very long time, I was even questioning that. And I was like, and once again, not solely for myself, but I was seeing my friends lose their houses and their cars and their jobs, and just families crumbling, and this happened right after a devastating tornado, one block over.
Yeah, it's a bad combination.
Yeah, one day we're picking up somebody's debris out of the yard, and the next minute we're all picking up each other's debris here, and it's been, everybody's got a pandemic story now. I mean, I don't care who you are, and it's and what I hope now, what I've learned on the other side of this, I hope that I can really bitch about it and be mad at God or whatever, but what was the outcome? What was the yes, it's a hard lesson. Did I have more lessons to learn? Who knows? For once in my life, there was nobody to blame. It was it just happened. And so I've been documenting and journaling my experience with this, because I went from curl up in the corner angry. I didn't know why I was sick, but I had a really tough year last year. It's been a lot of allergies, and I stayed sick, forcing me to move, because I didn't want to stay in a community that had so many people. So it was a force to move. I took the curtains down. Not a lot of people have curtains anymore, but I am my mother's son, so they were beautiful, by the way. but I took them down, and on the back side of that curtain on the wall was covered in black mold. I mean,
Oh no! Wow.
The unit next door had come, and that black mold for a year was keeping me sick.
Yeah,
so,
that'll do it.
Yeah, I thought, I was getting checked for everything. I'm like, what's? I nothing during the drug days. What happened?
I heard a crazy statistic yesterday, or not yesterday, but over the weekend. I was watching this documentary on iTunes. A friend recommended it, called Fantastic Fungi, and it has all the benefits of all these different kinds of mushrooms. But it was a crazy statistic. They did a study for houses with mold, and it was like, and an overwhelming majority of divorced homes had mold in them. And it was a bizarre thing to study, but kind of eye-opening, because they're saying, yeah, these people are staying home, they're all fidgety, they're unhealthy, they're irritable, and so of course they're not getting along.
During the pandemic, Matt and I decided to live in separate houses so we wouldn't kill each other and we'd stay together. So it's the black mold.
Yeah, there you go. It might have been.
You never know, man. But getting healthier, then going, and then this whole thing of the pandemic started, and I was like, gosh, maybe that's what's wrong with me, So I go get tested really early on, and it's nothing like that. But my state of mind going in, because I'm a runner, I'm always a big, healthy thinker, but I was like, what am I missing here?
Yeah.
And I tried to take it all on. You can't do that. That's the way I hit things in my life. I take it on, and hey, this is great. If it's bad, we're going to get through it. And there wasn't enough information. I mean, there's just, so I always said this. I'm surprised I haven't had a mental breakdown in my life and in my friends' lives. I said, well, here it goes, boys and girls. That really, truly, I'm a big state person for a statement for mental health now, because forgive me for those of you who have depression out there, because I used to think about depression. I would go, wow, Wellbutrin, isn't there a pill to take for that? And my father, I could never get it why my dad was so depressed. He died at an early age from a lot of stuff around that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I understand now. It was so dark. It was and I always had the light in there. I just couldn't find the light. And I lived in that for about 6 weeks, and a lot of the bad thing about it for me now is that I made people worry. There were a lot of people really worried about me. I'm usually the cheerleader, but it wasn't in me. It was just gone.
Mm-hmm.
And thank God for my if I may speak openly and freely.
Please do.
My good old lesbian therapist that has helped me through so much. She's in retirement now, and
but she's sticking with you even though she's retired, huh?
Oh yeah, that's
nice.
I have a different one now, but I went back to the well.
Okay.
I went back to the original well, and she reminded me of a few things that I had forgotten about. Really, just being claustrophobic for one. I had to work through some stuff being on a tour bus, and she goes, you're not well, and you put yourself in this 800 square foot place. And yes, it's nice. She goes, but you're confined, and now you just found out you're going to be confined for probably 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
Literally, your grocery person is the only person, because we don't know what's wrong with you, Ty. So you're not going to have COVID, but COVID will kill you because there's something wrong with you. So all this is going on in my head, and then the biggest summer tour I've ever had coming up, documentary, all this stuff. So all I can see is failure.
Right.
Where did I fail in this? And there's like, you didn't, man.
I know.
Nothing to do with this. And
millions of people going through the exact same thing, asking the same questions, feeling the same way.
I think at the end of the day, that energy is what also got me standing up. It's always been about giving back to others. So that's recovery rule number 1. Just give it back. So I had no legs. And my mother also called me at 6 a.m. one morning, and my mother sleeps until at least 11. She's asleep. She said, I said, Mom, why are you calling me at 6 a.m.? She goes, hey, I found a place on Facebook. Hey, you need to know about. I said, Mom. She goes, no, really. She goes, listen, that platform you have where you go out there and you talk to kids and you help people, this is stuff you've been through? She goes, I said, yes, ma'am. She goes, I found you can sell just about anything on Facebook. I found a place you can sell it. You're obviously not using it. So, so I need a price. Dead ass serious. I said, Mom, I said, you're being silly. I said, and my mother, who never cusses ever,
Mm-hmm.
she dropped the bomb of all cuss words. Yes.
Yeah.
I ask you,
What was that?
That price.
Right.
And she got my
She was
attention.
serious.
Yeah. And I was like, Mama, there's not a price tag for that. And she said, exactly. She goes, this is not about how I raised you. It's not about you being faithful. It's not about any of that. It's about what you have in you. She goes, get up. She goes, get up. Bye.
Wow.
My mom hung up on me.
Yeah.
That morning. It was like the talking to you never want to get, especially, in your 50s. From an 81-year-old woman, it's just will still kick your ass.
Yeah. What an awesome way to drive the point home.
Well, yeah, she did. She and so I just something had to crack the shell, because it just I think also you put yourself in a place after you've been through a lot in your life I think that you start building walls, and you make your walls strong so they won't happen again. But sometimes some things that you shouldn't have put in that wall get in there, and that's what I've learned through this. That I'm still the same guy. We've all still got the same talents, and whether it's with a tambourine in the back alleys, I will sing. That will not be taken from me. And if it is, then somebody cut off my head.
Right. Yeah. And it's great that you had people in your career, like you said, who stuck by you during those difficult times. And you mentioned, you went through these hard times because you weren't. It sounds like at least part of the reason you're going through these hard times is because you felt you weren't being able to be yourself, or maybe you didn't truly know yourself yet. Is that fair to say?
It was some of that.
But
it was. I couldn't get past the hard work and the loss. It really was just a big old pity party. Is what it was. And I got angry. Angry that was really 10 years of work and just building back, and really a lifetime of it, really, and of integrity, just getting launching a foundation, and just having to shut the doors to all that. And what it was anger. And I'm not a real angry guy, but I guess I needed to be angry because I pitched the mother of all fits. So it was an angry child of God.
Yeah.
And man, and it even extended to that, because I had a little blood clot thing happen just from how I was being so worked up, and ended up in the emergency room. I had to have a little surgery, and the emergency room nurse came over after it was all over with. I was in a lot of pain, and she said, beautiful black lady, and she said, Mr. Herndon. I said, you can call me Ty. She said, Ty. She goes, I didn't ask you a question. She goes, is everything all right with you and God? I said, yes. I said, he or she has been experiencing me be a brat lately. We experienced that. Oh no. She goes, you said things to God that children ought not to say. Really, I was cussing out. I turned my mother on God. So that's what I'm really sorry about that. She goes, no. She goes, we have a lot of people come here in pain. She goes, but you did it well. I said, well, it wasn't about God, and it wasn't about anything other than the pain, I'm sure. On top of everything else,
Yeah. So speaking of God, you have a new single out called Orphans of God. Did you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Man, I would love to. I never thought I'd get to do this song, and I loved it for a long time. I loved Avalon back in the day, and a lot of people have cut the song. And the writer, Joel Lindsay, is one of my dear friends. We had a Grammy nomination for a song we wrote called Journey On that album, and it speaks to me, man. And Chenoweth and I have been talking about this duet thing forever. So I approached her with it. I said, my project's put on the back burner till next year. So I'm just thinking of something. I want something out this year.
Yeah.
So original Christmas record, just choir and acoustic and a piano. And said it's 20 years old this Christmas, and so I'm going to repackage it. And it was fun going and remastering that, because I'm like, we did a pretty good job with this, man. This is actually a unique record, and so it's so great to have that back. I said, but I've got this idea. I said, something new on it. And I said, with what we're going through today, I said, take a listen to this song. I said, I want it to be like Josh Groban's "You Raise Me Up." It speaks on many levels, not just on the God level, but just people in need, that they're loved, and that they can have a hug through a song. And she loved it. And I went back to Joel. I said, because the original version was really geared towards the Christian community and contemporary Christian audience. And I called Joel and I said, man, is there any way we can change out a few words in this just to make it? He goes, I already did it. And I said, what do you mean you already did? He goes, I did it way back when Avalon cut it, just in case, because they wanted a crossover hit. I said, you're telling me, and I'm calling you right now, and I want some more contemporary lyrics on this. You already have them? She goes, I'm done. It'd be 2 seconds, boom.
Nice.
And I said, well, okay, that was 17 years ago. I thought to myself, any of those need to be changed?
Yeah.
And they didn't. They were perfect. And most of it was in I think I had 2 words in my first half, but Kristin's verse was completely new, pretty much. And she said, I was thinking that too. And I said, well, and then I got to produce her in the studio, which was incredible experience. We've been friends for a good long while, but I'm like a master vocalist. How am I going to produce it? She said, well, this is your project, so it needs your stamp on it. So okay. So I'm like we're doing right now is how we were at the studio. And it's interesting watching another singer work, because I do produce my records and others, but she's world class and she's does so many different types of music. So I found myself going into Kristin Chenoweth school. So I went back and listened to almost every record that she's done, and her range is limitless. And at the end of the day, I said to her with an interview with her, I said, I want to apologize to you for something. She goes, what? And I said, I never even asked you what key you could sing this song, and I just did it. She goes, I noticed that. And I said, well, I had a vision for this thing that you start out as contemporary, hear you on the radio today, Kristin Chenoweth, and then switch gears. Not a lot of people get to do that in songs. And in this third modulation, I want to hear operatic, Kristin Chenoweth meets Sandy Patty, full on what I've seen you do in concert, and what brings people to their feet about you. Because when she goes into those opera notes, people just go crazy. So she goes, we're going to do that in the same song. I said, we are. She said, call me crazy. We're going to do it. And honestly, I didn't know. I had a feeling, but I didn't. I'll tell you the moment I knew it worked. We did her vocal. She did the third modulation. It was great. And I was up to about 1 a.m. with her engineer, putting it together. And I didn't know if Matt was filming some of that. He said, you're very intense. I said, well, yeah, this is Kristin Chenoweth. You better be intense, better pay attention. But when I really knew it would work, I had Michael Passons and Melissa Green, who were original members of Avalon. And Michael just came out recently. He was asked to leave the band that he created because of a rumor about him being gay. He was finally able to tell his story. And he left. And 17 years later, some things I didn't even know. This Orphans of God song, it was going to be something that he would be singing on this happened right before that album was cut. And so another person walked into that role. And it's always, I'm sure we're one of my dear friends, but I don't ask these kind of questions, but I'm sure it had to be very painful at that time. And probably still today. But so I was really hesitant. I'm like, okay, Avalon song, good memories and bad memories. Want to sing on it? I've already asked Melissa Green. She said yes, and they're good friends. I said absolutely, would love to sing on it. And I knew even the way he answered the question that he was singing on it from the right place. And getting the full circleness of that, circling back to what I just said, I knew that the Chenoweth that third modulation, when she goes up there, it was Michael, Melissa, Chenoweth, and I said, okay, there's not a place for me to sing here. So, and I said, so I'm not going to. This is obviously a moment that needs to happen. Not that had nothing to do with me, but it was that moment was all about Michael, to be honest with you, and the song, because it's you can hear him clearly, and it becomes that moment where you didn't expect. It was that third mod. And I bet you this is the first time it's ever happened to me, man. I usually hear from a lot of fans and stuff about the new music. I said, I counted them the other day, best I could. I probably had 90 text messages from industry people, from people that are just music people in the industry. And everyone was like, that third modulation. I'm like, yeah, I'm not singing on that.
They're like, oh, you sound so good at that part. You're like, I'm not on that part.
So it's been fun. But I knew in that moment that my engineer looked at each other and said, that works. So he said, you're not going to sing here. I said, nope, no, nor would I ever. Never would I, because it's just that is done, and it's gorgeous. And then we break it back down to that bridge. From now on, if people ask me my favorite song, I'll always say my favorite song to work on ever.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and and there's another story that goes with that, man, because I sang, of course, Paul Cardall is on this record. Lovely concert pianist who's a friend of mine, and I mean the man does well out there. People love him, and I sang on his record. He's got a record coming in January. We wrote a song called "Some Kind of Wonderful."
Okay.
That's basically for the LGBTQ kids community out there, and it's on his record, and which is a huge step for a beautiful Mormon person to put that on there. And
yeah.
Man, it took me. Paul actually delayed his album wrapping it because of me, and I'm embarrassed about that, but it couldn't be helped because I was still dealing with this mental stuff. And one of the things that happened, I had a disconnect between this and this, and what was coming out of my mouth. It was thin. It was like, where'd Ty go? Emotionless. It was dry. It was just like, okay. I spent almost 10 weeks trying to sing that one song, and I would go in and I'd leave. I'd go in and I'd leave, and I finally put together a vocal. When I listen to it now, you'd think, oh, well, there was nothing going on.
Yeah. And when you say this and this, for some people who are listening, you pointed to your head and your mouth.
A disconnect in my head with my brain and my voice.
Right.
To be 1, 2, 3. And I knew that I was this Chenoweth song was looming right back here, that it was all in my hands. And everything that's in my hands start with me as a singer. And I was 10 minutes from bailing on the whole project. I mean, just like and just being very honest, which I'm being now, but I couldn't get past something that was keeping me from being a singer. And bless you.
Speaking of allergies.
Yeah. And I bless you, by the way.
Thanks.
And a last ditch attempt, because I'm like, God, universe, friends, I really want to do this song. I think it's something that needs to be heard right now, whether it's one person or 5 million people. And I feel it in my spirit, but I have to be able to sing it. And this is what I do, especially this kind of song. And I called Steve Dady, my engineer, at Sunset Boulevard Studios, where I've sang my last 4 records. He said, you just booked 10 hours for one vocal. You realize that, right? I said, I did. I said, I got 10 hours to see what I can do. And he said, something going on? I told him, he said, okay, well, we'll get it done. And I walked in that studio, man, and something about going back to the well, something about going back to where you started. And Steve turned on the track. He knows how to set everything was preset because I've done so much work there. He said, okay, man, let's just maybe start with the first line of the song. And I said, okay. I had sang it to the end, all the way through. And Steve said, want to sing it again? And I said, sure. I was not going to question whatever the hell was going on at that point. And, you know, I like to say the hell was being removed, but I sang it through again. It was pretty good. And I sang it through the third time. The third pass, I think we replaced 2 lines in it. The third pass is the vocal. And Steve goes, "Want me to bill you for these other 9 hours?"
Yeah, I was about to say you had a lot of hours left.
And he, you know, I didn't work with him through the Paul stuff, and he, you know, he didn't see the struggle of that. But you know, there's been so many lessons that I look forward to talking about. It's just when you give up, everything gives up, and when you surrender to something, that's different. When you surrender to it, you really get into the lessons of it. So I like to say I had probably 6 weeks of giving up, and the rest of it's just been surrender, because I still have to get up every day. I still have responsibilities, and surrendering for me was calling Steve Dady, going, okay, I surrender that I've got a problem, and but I'm going to get in the solution of it. So I'm going to book 10 hours and I will get this done.
Yeah. So maybe it was that you already kind of made up your mind that you were going to solve it. And so the 10 hours was you saying that I'm going to do whatever it takes. But since you already made up your mind, you were able to do it on that third take. By the grace
of whatever you want to call it, I call it God.
Yeah.
There's a guy I was able to do that, and I told Kristin this story, and she's like, I knew something was up. She's like, I said, because I've seen you crazy. She said, you've seen mine. I said, yeah, there was some crazy in there, and so she got my vocal. And there's a funny version of the song. I don't know if I'll ever be brave enough to release it, but I sing her part that day. I'm feeling confident. So, because for me, it was just goofing around. I'm up in this soprano voice.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you hit that note.
You have no idea what the arrangement had even done. So you're asking me to sing on a song for you that I haven't heard the arrangement. I've only heard the Avalon version. She goes, "You didn't give me a key." So I said, "I know, I was a bad boy," and but it made sense. You know, I was really just keep swimming. I was kind of doing that, and she was taking a week break with Josh, her boyfriend, who's my guitar player. I should say I'm his singer. I got 2 guitar players that I belong to that I'm really comfortable working with. And,
right.
Josh and Eric. But I mean, I've been working for Josh a long time. All of a sudden, he comes to the show. He goes, "I need extra security for this girl I've been dating." I said, "Okay, who is it?" He goes, "Well, she's a singer. Her name's Kristin Chenoweth." I was like, "Is this a joke?" I know Kristin. He goes, "I know you know. It's just, but we're kind of letting the world know now." I said, "Okay." So Kristin Chenoweth doesn't really need extra security. She sits right out in the middle of the crowd anyway. So, but we got it done, man. I lost my train of thought there. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it sounds like you got it done. Maybe that'd be.
She heard it in the pool. She was in the pool, and she sends me a video back. I mean, she just heard it one time. She says she starts on her verse and then she sings the whole thing to me in the pool. I'm like, okay, see, that wasn't that hard.
There you go. I think you should release that alternate cut, on social media or something like that. Something just, it's something casual or fun, or on YouTube behind the scenes.
What she said, she goes, "I had no idea you had that soprano voice in there." I said, "We call it falsetto." So I've always had it.
Nice. Well, you've had a crazy story, Ty. Do you ever feel like they might make a movie about you at some point?
It's interesting you asked me that, because I just went through a whole bunch of boxes. I had just boxes of stuff from career, and I went through it carefully. And I didn't need 10 copies of Country Weekly with Winona on the cover. I just where they mention you, I would keep everything, and or my people would. And I ended up thinking I kept about 2 boxes of it, and I said, I don't think there'll ever be a Ty Herndon museum, but I said, but there will be generations of family. And whatever I pick out of these boxes will be something that I know somebody would actually want and cherish. And that would have to mean that I cherished it. And so I ended up with stuff I thought was lost forever, like the Texas Entertainer of the Year award.
Awesome.
Right,
nice.
Gone forever. I was like, somebody stuck in the box. So
yeah.
My great grandmother's Blue Willow China set, the 10-piece setting that was stuck way back in the corner. I mean, just, I didn't even know I owned it. My mom said, oh yeah, that was something that, you know, during your not yourself time was given to you. And it was fascinating. It took me 3 days. I didn't want anybody to help me. Went through it all myself. And there wasn't a piece of it that I didn't recognize and know exactly what was happening at that time. So that actually, because there was we are doing a book. It's been in the works. Chris Willman from Rolling Stone has been helping me with this for 4 years. And
nice.
That was another thing.
I knew it sounded too good to not be told. You know what I mean? And
Chenoweth comes in later. She says, "Well, you know, we got this production company. That would be like a great. You and Shelley write, you know, like miniseries kind of thing." Then pandemic happened, and so like, well,
it's all right. We'll get past this. We'll get past this.
And but going through those things, I remembered things that should be in the book. I remembered moments in my life that I left out. So that was a good thing. But I also found when I was a model when I was 18 after Star Search.
Mm-hmm.
I was with the Ford agency for about a second. And, like, what does a model do? You know, that first photo shoot, I found one of the first headshots, and I started laughing. I'm like, I put it, I matted it, put it in a frame, put it on the picture wall. And
you found one of your old photos from in that crate?
I matted it, put it on the wall, and it's been there for probably about a week. We were sitting there, and Matt goes, "Who is that?" Who is what? He goes, who's that person on the wall? I said, have I changed that much? He goes, no. I said, yeah. I said, that was my very first Ford agency photo. So eventually somebody told me, you have a crooked jaw, so you can't be a model. It's like, that's okay. I want to be a singer.
It's all right. Being a singer is cooler anyway.
Model.
Well, Ty, thanks so much for sharing your crazy story. And like, I really do think, well, apparently we are going to get a book about to learn more about it at some point. And then maybe even a movie with Kristin Chenoweth's production company. We'll see. Or somebody.
I don't know, man, I've surrendered. So it's just whatever.
There you go. There you go. Well, we like to end the interview by asking you if you had one piece of advice to give to aspiring artists, what would it be? Yeah, man, it's my thing. I talk to whether you're an LGBTQ kid, whether you know whoever you are out there. I mean, I love being able to spend. One of the things that's kept me sane too during this time I get to be on Zoom calls with sometimes 200 kids, wow. From the community. So. Talk about teaching you something. Those kids will teach you. But I always say to them, take LGBTQ off the table. Take whatever is limiting you, that you feel is limiting you off the table, and focus on who you want to be. Focus on, if you want to be a songwriter, then teach yourself, study to be the best songwriter out there, uniquely you. If you want to be a singer, you have to be uniquely you, and there's something in you that is unique. And start on that journey and find out who that is, because that's what's going to make you successful in life. So I wish somebody told me that a long time ago. And just leave the noise. It's hard for a kid to leave the noise out because we absorb noise. I absorb noise today, and just getting quiet, and it's the place to get the answers. But and a lot of these kids don't know this. I mean, there's helplines out there. There's so many of our kids being kicked out of their churches and their homes. Just for being brave enough to say who they are. And if you're brave enough to say who you are, that deserves love. It does not deserve punishment. And so that's oh, my Zoom light just went off when I said that. Yay! No, my circle light also brought to me Kristin Chenoweth. I was like, there you go.
For that? She goes, yes, takes 10 years off.
I just got one of those too, but I got some natural sunlight coming in right now, so I'm not using it. But
Good. You look good, man.
thanks, man. Ditto. But well, yeah, I mean, it's like Abe Lincoln said, whatever you are, be a good one, right? Bringing it backward.